people have made the comment that we have no feasibility studies, no reports, no 23 or 43 months. In reality, the company, I'm a geologist myself. I did the initial report. Then we went out and hired an independent engineer, Duncan Bain. Duncan Bain is fully accredited with the SEC. He has turned around and he's written the independent reports for us that back up the company's own internal reports. Duncan's reports actually give a higher level of reserves than our own internal reports do. I would say I'm more conservative than Duncan is at this time. He is, according to the SEC, the qualified person as defined in the National Instrument 43101. His reserve numbers we haven't published because we prefer to stay with the own in-house reserve numbers that we have. That we have published where we have proven developed producing reserves of 455,000 ounces of gold, proven non-producing of 400,000 ounces of gold. Our milling costs are $310 per ounce. Our extraction costs are $455 an ounce on that. So we're in full production. We're doing very, 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 very well. We have backup independent studies on everything that we've done. Any of our analysis that's been done, we do analysis in our own lab. Then we have secondary analysis done by independent labs to verify the results of our own people and what's been done.
George?
Then in terms of silver, the comment has been made that we have no silver. We've had Mr. Bain do a separate report just on silver, and he did. This is a report that shows what our silver reserves are. Our silver reserves are quite good, and in most cases are proven. We have not released that information because we don't feel any need to. We don't publish a lot of the technical information that we get like a lot of companies do because we don't feel the need to promote what we're doing. We're in production. We're producing. We're generating cash. We're making a profit. We turned the Aruma mill. We moved it from 150 tons a day to 250 tons a day, and the money, the profits we're making, we're putting back into the ground and upgrading the mills. We also do contract milling from small miners that have no mill, and we get paid for our milling costs plus a percentage of the gold that we mill for the independent miners. These independent miners are for the first time getting a cash flow out of tailings ponds, out of their mines, where they used to just take things to the chili mill and then put everything in a tailings pond. We now process that for them. We're doing that with 5 separate mines right now. We're negotiating with another 9 mines to do their milling for them as well. What everybody doesn't seem to realize is that having the mills gives us a huge advantage over everybody else. It allows us to process our own reserves. It allows us to process other people's reserves under a contract basis, and we get a percentage of what we produce for them. 30% of the milling is on our own reserves, and 70% is contract milling. The mining of old tailings ponds, we developed portable concentrators that can go into remote areas, and we define old tailings ponds from mines, and we go in and we process the tailings, create a concentrate and then transport the concentrate back to the mills and process them to get the gold out. These are very profitable, and the return on investment is under 4 months. On our financial statements, we had revenues of $4.9 million for the first 6 months of the year, profit of $1.5 million. Our balance sheet shows that we have total assets of $12 million, and we have liabilities of $4 million. Basically a 3-to-1 asset to liability. We're very strong. We have excess cash flow, and we're piling excess cash flow back into expanding our operation, looking for additional tailings piles, looking for additional projects where we can do the milling and make the majority of it. Our future plans will be to continue to do this. People are coming to us with raw exploration plays that have been drilled but are ready to go into production, and we're able to assess them. And because we work on everything based on the location of our mills, and if we can, we'll take on a project where they've never had production but have great gold reserves, and we'll bring it through our mills. One of the things that most people are forgetting is the value of the mills themselves. These mills are good for 15 to 20 years worth of operation and the ability to generate cash flow. We believe that the value of each mill is $15 to $20 million, and but of course you can't put that on your balance sheet. You can only put it on your balance sheet at actual cost, and our actual cost is around $7 million on that. We will continue with the milling as a priority. We expect to add one more mill this year, and we expect to define our own reserves to a further extent. Duncan Bain, when he wrote his report for us in October 2012, he defined a program for us that will allow us to expand our reserves, our existing reserves. At the same time, he felt that we had a copper reserve that needed to be looked at through a drilling program. We will do that this year out of our excess fund. What we're also looking at doing is enhancing the shareholder value, and to enhance the shareholder value, there's a variety of things the company can do. The fact that we have excess cash flow right now gives us the ability to take certain steps that will enhance the value of the stock. We expect to make announcements over the next little while as for what we're doing and how we're doing it. One of the things people have asked us to do a buyback. One of the conditions that part of a buyback is you have to have financial statements that show that you've been profitable for 2 years. We have those financial statements. We meet all the criteria financially and corporately to be able to do something like a buyback or other issues as we go along. So that gives you a general feel for what the company does and how it does it. It does very well. We expect to continue doing well. We expect that the revenues this year we're projecting the revenues this year will exceed last year's revenues. Our 6-month numbers show that, and every year we expect to grow as we maintain and increase the capabilities of the mills, both in terms of yields and the ability to process higher value ore as we go. That essentially summarizes the company. I'm willing to take any questions that anybody has.
Hey, Robert. This is
yes.
First, I want to say thanks for taking the time. Touched on cash a little bit. I think maybe Mike Lee background here.
Actually, you know what? We do have
we talked
added a couple
reliance on debt, in particular, is there a need for share
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Everyone needs to mute their phones. You got to mute your phones, guys.
Tell everyone to mute their phones. Stop messing up this phone call.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Robert?
I can hear you clear now.
Okay. This is Kenny Blankenship. I basically wanted to ask a question about cash flow. You touched on it. Reliance on debt, in particular, like share issuance. Is the company in a cash flow positive position now where you're comfortable to where you're on lockdown relative to any issuance of shares? I know I heard you mention buyback, but I think it was a white noise. So it's really couldn't hear exactly what you were saying. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, what I said related, we're in a very solid cash flow position. This new mill that comes fully on production in 2 weeks increases our cash flow by another $600,000 a month, based on 2.5 grams per ton, and we're at full capacity there in terms of contract, and so we have a significant excess cash flow. We'll continue to use some of the cash flow to do maintenance to expand the company, but we're looking at using a percentage of the cash flow to enhance shareholder value.
Great. That's awesome.
And Robert, we can fully hear you when you're definitely
Sorry?
call right now. You're speaking about things like that.
Somebody's causing huge.
Will you address audited financials? I don't know if you addressed it through the white noise and some individuals on here, but if you could address audited financials and why you currently haven't taken steps to do that already. I know that's been a topic of discussion, and then also touch again on if you guys have done any kind of dilutive financing or if you have enough from studies, if you wouldn't mind.
All right, and related to the audited financial statements is we've been negotiating with several accounting firms, and the general feeling is the cost for us to do our first audit will be somewhere around $750,000. And the reason for that is because our mills and our mines are located in remote areas in Peru and Ecuador, and our year end is December 31st. And to do an audit, because we have inventory, particularly gold, that has to be counted at the year end, we'd have to have 2 auditors at each location with security, and because you cannot get by without security there. And so what we're doing is we're putting in place all the procedures to do an audit. We're operating as if we're audited right now. We follow all the procedures and protocols, and so that when we're ready to do an audit within say a year or whatever the accounting firms think they can work with, then we'll have everything in place. We'll have done everything we needed to do.
Wonderful. And can you touch about the, you hear a lot of people solution that you guys need the money, that you're not actually making gold, and can you address on that for a second?
Well, if we're not making gold, I'd like to know where we're getting all our money from on that. The simple fact is we're producing, we produce an average of 25 days per month in each mill. We're averaging 25 to 30 ounces of gold, and it doesn't take much to do the math on that to confirm it to our gross revenue.
So what you're
we expect with this new mill that will increase our will increase our daily gold production up somewhere around 45 to 46 ounces per day, and that's based on the engineering and all the production equipment and that that's been bought, and the fact that we've put high-tech flotation cells in. The yield will be very, very high. We don't use mercury or cyanide anymore. We're totally environmentally sensitive on how we produce now. So we expect that we're projecting that our cash flow and our profit will increase every quarter for at least the next 8 quarters.
And I heard you say something about, you guys are having, you're such cash flow positive right now. You were thinking about, putting some of that cash back into the company and or the stock. Do you see this as something you'd be doing like often, like quarterly, something like that, like quarterly buyback or something along those lines?
What we're looking at doing is allocating a certain percentage of our cash flow into shareholder enhancement, and so will be exactly the amount we'll be putting in. We don't know, but it'll be every quarter from starting from the end of the next quarter.
So, Robert, what you're saying is there's going to be some dividends?
Sorry?
What you're saying is there's potential for a dividend?
We've looked at dividend programs. We've looked at the ones that all the majors have, and we do a dividend program. It'll be something that mirrors what they have, but there's rules that have to be set up to be able to do a dividend program, and our legal counsel are looking at all areas of buybacks or dividends or anything that we can to enhance it, but there's no guarantees on anything until they can tell us what we can or can't do.
Do you guys plan to issue any more shares?
We have no need to issue any more shares on that. Any shares that have been issued in the last little while have been as a result of maintaining the control block. The control block is this result of debt, is converting some of the debt that was put into the company by myself and other individuals, and any shares that are issued are restricted shares and part of the control block and cannot be sold.
Bob, on page 5 of your quarterly, there's
Sorry? Hello?
So, Robert, how many shares are there outstanding currently?
There's 627 billion outstanding. Of that, the control block is approximately 325 to 330 million shares that are restricted and can't be sold.
So that's 627 million, including all options and warrants, fully diluted?
Correct. Fully diluted.
And of that, it sounds like 50% on lock-in, right?
I didn't catch that last bit.
It sounds like of that, it's 50% on lock-in.
I still didn't catch what you said.
Needs to be there. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Of that outstanding, 5.4% are locked.
Yeah, I think you asked over 50% is control block. That is correct.
Robert, can you hear me all right?
People are fading in and out when they talk.
Okay, Robert, you have been personally attacked many times on the websites. What do you have to say to that? With your previous companies that you've been with, you've been painted pretty black. How do you respond to that?
You know, one of the things I've learned about being attacked on the chat rooms is if you pay attention to what they say, ultimately it'll give you an ulcer. And some of the comments they've made on other stuff. For instance, one guy, I ended up suing six guys on the chat rooms. I got their names, sued them. And the one thing that I found was common with all the people in the chat room that were bashers is every one of them had no money at all and couldn't pay anything. I got one guy into court. He was 500 pounds. We had to bring in special chairs for him. Turns out he was a pizza delivery guy. On the chat room, he said that he was a doctor and he had all these issues. And in fact, he was just seeing a doctor. Another guy said he was a publisher and had his own jet, and that he was an assistant manager of a bookstore in Vancouver. So the bottom line is I've learned to ignore the stuff they accuse my daughters on the website of running a prostitution ring, all sorts of stuff like that. And what I learned is if I paid attention to it, I would go crazy, particularly when we were able to identify and track down 8 or 10 of these guys, and I just ignore them. So I haven't read a chat room in over 10 years. I don't know what they say other than what people tell me they say.
That's why. In relation to that, can you clarify your relationship with Andy's Gold and why why the New World Gold share price will move, whereas Andy's Gold just stays flat? Is the relationship not that close?
No, Andy's Gold is our subsidiary. I mean, we disclose that all over the place. We own 82%. New World Gold owns 82% of Andy's Gold. On that is why it doesn't move on the stock market is beyond me. But Andy's participates in everything that New World Gold does. It pays its share of everything. It has its own mills. It has its own reserves. It has its own independent engineering reports that have been written by Duncan Bain. And when we first moved into Peru, we ended up taking control of Andy's Gold, and so we started with Andy's Gold and then developed New World Gold from there. But when we developed New World Gold, we made sure that it had the controlling percentage of Andy's Gold at all times.
Okay, one last question, then I'll give way to some of the others. I don't want to hog the limelight, but can you address the issue of dilution? The bashers on the websites, and I know you don't really pay attention to them, but you must be aware that they were claiming dilution. And how would you respond to that?
Easily. What people don't seem to realize is that when I try to maintain New World Gold's interest at 80% in Andy's, and I try to maintain the control block in New World Gold at above 50%. And so I do not draw a salary from New World Gold. You can see on the financial statements that I accumulate the salary that I would draw, and when I want to make sure I maintain the percentage, I convert some of that debt when it's necessary to maintain that 52% range, and it's restricted stock. It can't be sold.
Well, thank you very much. I'll just let someone else chime in now. Thank you.
Yes, Robert.
Yes.
Robert, can you hear me?
Website
Yes.
you guys did mine in Montana.
Hello?
We can't find any.
Yeah.
Actually, mine in Montana.
report a couple times.
Are you saying that 100% of your operations are outside the United States?
I barely heard somebody say something about 100% of the operations. I don't know what they said.
So you're saying that 100% of your operations are outside of the United States. You guys have no mine in Utah, and you never applied for a permit.
That's correct. We did have a sapphire mine, small sapphire mine in Montana. We sold that when the owner of the mine, or the owner of the operator of the mine, picked up cancer and expired. It wasn't worth us holding on to. So everything we do now is in Peru and Ecuador.
Okay, and then one more question. You said that you've done all the geology reports to
Sorry?
find the. You made it clear that you've done all the geology reports as far as your mine in America. Are you a registered geologist?
I'm a retired geologist. I was registered and a member of APEGA, the Association of Professional Engineers, Geologists, and Geophysicists. And I was also, I used to write assessment reports for regulatory authority, for companies on the behalf of, or that needed to submit regulatory reports to regulatory guys. And I retired as a member of APEGA, but I was a member of APEGA for, I believe, 25 years. I'm a field geologist. My training was by Rio Tinto, and after my field training with Rio Tinto, I moved in with Hudbay Coal Company, and then from Hudbay Coal Company started my own oil and gas company, and then moved back into mining, as I find that more exciting.
Are you currently a registered geologist, though?
No, I'm retired.
You're retired. So what year did you do your geology report in South America?
I was at the U of A from 1969 to 1973.
I mean, you're drilling in South America.
Gold tide?
You're proving gold based off of your report that you did. I'm wondering what year you did all the drilling in South America. Your plans to prove your gold.
You have to speak up a little bit. I didn't catch all that. Hello?
Who's down there?
Robert, can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Could you possibly make available to shareholders the Duncan Bain independent report? You said it was more conservative. I think it would be useful for shareholders to be able to see that.
I see no need to put Duncan's report out. Duncan's report is a 43-101. The company doesn't use it for anything. The 43-101 report is mostly for promotional purposes or to raise money. We have no need to do that. The reports that we hang our hat on are our own internal reports, and so we're not going to release information on our reserves when we're in production and we're already producing a cash flow on that. We talk to Duncan often. We get Duncan to upgrade as he goes, as we go and have him look at our reserves. But no, we're not prepared to release his report.
You said Duncan was a mining engineer, though, and you said that you did the reports, or you did the drilling in South America as your geologist. So we're just wondering what year you did those reports, and if you actually did drilling in South America as you would have to do in the States.
Yeah, let me clarify that. Is the drilling that was done on the property, and I evaluated the drill results. I didn't do the actual drilling or supervise the drilling. Neither did Duncan. When Duncan wrote his report, he took the drilling results that have been done by other people in the area and used that and our own results to come up with the report.